Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. I have previously mentioned in my video that I had some challenges with birth control, IUD specifically, because that was the option I went for. But today I'll be bearing it all, everything that happened before, during and after I had it removed. Birth control is one thing we get to deal with as women, especially when you are still within the childbearing age, when you don't want unexpected pregnancy. After I had my first child, I knew I had to settle for one because that was something I had been escaping for years. Even before I became pregnant with my first child, I had already started contemplating which one I should go for before I realized I was already pregnant. I had to go for one immediately I had my baby. So I went to the hospital. After I did my research, I was specifically told that I should use a government hospital because that way you get to meet professionals who are experienced in the field. So on this fateful day, I went to the hospital. They ran tests. One thing that really got me confused that day was, I usually hear that when you go for birth control, they will test you to know which one best work for you. But to my greatest surprise, the only test they did was pregnancy test. They needed to be sure I wasn't pregnant before getting it on. When I tried to ask, how will you know if it works for me or not? They said the only way they can know if it works for you is when you have it on, when you use it. That's when they will know if it works for you or not. And that's got me thinking, so these people are just using us as lab rats. So you have to get this thing on first before you can find out if it works for you or not, if your body will react to it or not. Not like we had any choice anyway, but I just had to take one. They gave me different options: daily pill, condom, the IUD, which is the one they insert, then different other options. They just have to pick any one that suits you. I tried to weigh all the options, and the only one I could settle for was IUD. I would not have even gone for that option, knowing that this thing would be inside of me for a long time. But I still settled for it because that seemed to be the best option for me then. We ran the pregnancy test. They checked my blood pressure, checked my height, checked my weight, and every other thing. Got to it. When I got to the mini theater where they did it, I was still asking the nurse, please ma, are you sure this thing is okay? She said yes, it's the best for you, especially because of your body type. You're already on the big side, because then I just had a baby and I was a bit bulky. You're on the big side already, so this option will be best for you. So according to her, if I try to use any other one, there is another one, that one will come every 2 or 3 months for shots. If I try to do all those ones might make me fatter than I was. But this option I was going for was fine, so I said okay. I just went for it. So that very day I started bleeding. I called immediately to ask them if that was how it worked. She said yes. And when they put it, they usually leave a strand of rope there. That's the rope they will use to examine it to know if everything is fine. For some days I just kept feeling the rope there. I even went back to the hospital to ask them if that's how it is. They said yes, that's how it is. That I just had to deal with it. Okay, I just left it and hoped for the best. I think the period lasted for about a week. According to them, that's because it's the first time. My body would adjust to it after a while. Normally when I give birth, my period usually delay for 7 months. It's after I finish exclusive breastfeeding that I get my period back. But this time around, period came immediately. As soon as that first period finished, 3 weeks later another period came. That's how I started having my period every three weeks. It will last for 7 days straight. This was something I wasn't so comfortable with. How can I be having my period every three weeks and it will last for straight 7 days? Each time I go to complain to them, they say that's how it is, that I should manage. Maybe after 6 months, my body will adjust to it. I kept waiting for my body to adjust to it. My body did not adjust to it. I waited for 6 months. Even after 6 months, it continued like that. Times when I don't feel well and I treat malaria, the next thing, period will just come. Even if I had it 2 weeks ago, period will just come. I said to myself, okay, if this frequent and irregular menstruation is something I have to deal with because of birth control, no problem, I'll deal with it. But that wasn't the only thing that came with it. At some point, I started having malaria frequently. I will treat this week, next week it will come up again. My mental health was a mess. I would just Sometimes I would just be thinking unnecessary things, just be getting depressed. Gogo was my best friend. Then I started asking, how body reacts to birth control? Why am I reacting like this? Why am I feeling this way? Each time I tried to find out what was wrong, just kept directing me to the IUD. At this point I was already getting tired, but I just felt, let me still give it a little time, since they said my body will adjust to it after a while. But my body did not adjust to it. Rather, things kept getting worse. I usually do not have acne. The only time I can say I've had active acne was when I was pregnant with my fourth child. Another thing that made me draw the line and said it was over, my knee started paining me. When that was not a problem, I started doing active knee exercises, but it still wasn't working. When I wake up in the morning, I would be feeling so weak. So I just knew this is not me. This thing has to go down. The funniest part of it is that when you go to the hospital to complain about it, they'll tell you it's not this thing that is disturbing you, that maybe it's something else. Oh, go and check what is wrong with you. It's not this thing that is disturbing you. Everybody else has used it and they've not complained about this. I kept going over and over again. Each time my symptoms kept getting worse. Apart from the fact that I have to go every three months for checkup. Every 3 months they have to do this, their constant checkup. At some point I stopped going because I couldn't subject myself to that 3 months check. That was about the time I started having frequent malaria, before I just made up my mind that I was going to remove it. The day I went to remove it, I had to tell the woman something. I tell her a different story where I wanted to remove it. I've gone before that I want to remove it. She said I should not remove it, that I want to get pregnant. If I remove it, I'm going to get pregnant immediately. After a while, I went back again to tell her that, please ma, I want to remove it. And when she asked me the reason for wanting to remove it, I told her my husband has gone on a long trip and before he will be back, it will take a while. So why do I keep it on if I will not be needing it? So that was the excuse I gave her before she could let me remove it. She now said, anytime I want it back on again, I should come. When she was saying, I was just looking at her, me, come back. Don't know what you're saying. So that was how I got it removed and I got myself back. So this birth control thing is something that nobody will explain it to you better until maybe you've gone through it, because I don't think people are loud enough about it. I don't think people are talking about it enough, because even when people have challenges about it and they go and talk, they don't even give them the attention they should give them. So when they don't give you such attention, who do you not turn to? Who do you not talk with? Nobody. So I feel the level of awareness about birth control and its side effects are not that much. They talk about getting birth control more than they talk about the side effects. And everybody is different. We all react differently. How I react to it may be different from how you will react to it. So getting birth control on, you should not use somebody's experience to judge yourself. Don't say because it worked for your sister, it will work for you. Or because it worked for your colleague, it will work for you. It may have worked for that person, but your sister may just reject it. Even when I got to the hospital, I made sure I asked every single question I had on my mind. My body still could not take it. So before you get birth control on, ask questions, do your research. Then after you get it on, do not ignore your symptoms. Pay attention to your body. If there are things that used to happen for you before, health-wise, are no longer working, please pay attention. If your period stops, I don't think that's a good thing to deal with, because when people will get birth control, they will no longer see their period. I don't think that's a good thing to deal with. If you get birth control on, try and pay attention to it. Pay attention to how your body is reacting to it before you leave it on. There are other safer means that you can try. If you get one on and it doesn't work for you, they usually advise that you try another one, but I don't think I want to subject myself to such practicals. So if you've watched this video to this point, thank you for watching. Don't forget to like this video, leave a comment, share this video with your friends. It might be helpful to someone. There might be people who are struggling with birth control. This video might be helpful. If there's anyone you have used and has worked for you, do not forget to leave your comments. See you again in my next video. Bye.